In the shadow of Fort Croghan, life on the Texas frontier was a constant negotiation between hope and hardship. Will Banta had an encounter with the formidable chief Wildcat. It would bring him face to face with the fragile balance between power and humanity. As the leaders on opposite sides of the divide grappled with survival, a test of courage and character unfolded. A test that would shape the lives of all who called the frontier home. This is a story of leadership, resilience, and the enduring fight to bridge the chasm of two worlds.
The sun had barely risen when I saddled my horse, Buckshot, and set off toward Fort Croghan to report my interaction with Chief Wildcat. Major Henry Hopkins, Sibley, had instructed all citizens in the area to file reports of any sightings or communications with indigenous tribes. As I rode, my thoughts turned toward the fort, only 5 miles north of our cabin, and the weight of what lay ahead. Fort Croghan stood as a sentinel on the edge of the untamed frontier, a bastion of civilization carved into rugged wilderness. Established in 1849 near Hamilton Creek to ensure a supply of fresh water, it was built to protect settlers drawn by the promise of free and cheap land. Many who ventured here arrived from distant shores, only to find barren rangelands and a harsh existence requiring unyielding grit. The Comanche and Apache peoples, who once roamed these lands freely, grew restless as their hunting grounds diminished. Their spirits stirred into resistance. Commanded by men like Major Sibley and Captain Robert E. Lee, the fort housed not just soldiers but a glimpse of infrastructure. A hospital for the wounded, a blacksmith's forge for tools and weapons, and a lookout atop Post Mountain, watching over the wilderness. Fort Croghan embodied the reality of the frontier, a realm of hope, struggle, and survival, where every individual carried a story shaped by the land's challenges. As I approached, the fort buzzed with activity. Sentries scanned the horizon from the watchtower, soldiers drilled in the yard, and the echo of a bugle marked the rhythm of the day. I arrived just as the cook rang the dinner triangle. Inside Major Sibley's office, Captain Robert E. Lee greeted me briefly before escorting me to the Major. He stood near the desk, studying the worn map spread across it, his gloved fingers tracing the winding frontier roads with quiet precision. I began recounting my encounter with Chief Wildcat when a soldier burst into the room, breathless, delivering an urgent message. "Major Sibley, you'll want to come see this. Comanche riders just crested the ridge," Corporal Eli Whitaker reported, his voice firm despite the sheen of sweat on his brow. The air grew tense. Sibley rose from his chair, his face hardening with the weight of experience. Without a word, he motioned for me to follow as we moved to intercept the advancing group. Captain Lee trailed close behind, his commanding presence steadying the unease among the men. Sibley cast a glance at the map before turning to Lee. "Continue your assessment, Captain. Let's make sure this fort holds." Lee nodded once, unreadable, his attention already shifting back to the defensive positions marked across the parchment. Before stepping out, Sibley added, "Stay on this, Captain. You know better than anyone how the land shifts under our boots." Sibley turned to me with swift efficiency. "Banta, you're with me. Diego, you too." Diego adjusted the worn leather pouch at his side, his translating tools always within reach. He nodded once, falling in step behind us. A lone rider approached, carrying a white flag tied to his lance. Behind him rode Chief Wildcat, flanked by the same warriors I'd encountered the day before. Dismounting gracefully, Wildcat scanned us with sharp, unyielding eyes. His presence was commanding yet calm, the mark of a leader negotiating survival for his people. He gestured toward a live oak tree for shade. As he approached me, he extended his hand. "Captain," he said firmly, though I was no officer. I understood the title carried more than its literal meaning. It was a mark of respect. "Major Sibley," I said, introducing him to the commander. Banta's voice carried just enough weight to make it clear. "Major, this is Chief Wildcat, or Kokuchi." Sibley's gaze locked onto Wildcat. His expression hardened. "Kokuchi," he said plainly, no hesitation. "Didn't think I'd see you off the Florida swamps." Wildcat met his stare without flinching. He had heard words like these before, felt the weight of them, yet he did not acknowledge them, choosing instead to dictate the moment on his own terms. Sibley's tone sharpened, revealing his growing impatience. "What does he want?" he asked through Diego in a flippant tone. Diego asked, "Unha nu sua?" enunciating each word. Wildcat's gaze flicked between Sibley and me, his words measured as he spoke in Comanche. "Numu tutsane bueno." Comanche people walk far. "No buffalo. No game. My people hunger. 600 souls wait. You give provisions, we talk peace. You no give, we still hunger, but we no leave." Diego translated, but Sibley, missing the nuance of Wildcat's choice to speak Comanche, dismissed the plea outright. "Tell him he'll get nothing here." Wildcat squared his shoulders, his expression shifting to one of quiet determination. Through the interpreter, he replied, "We have come for it, and we will have it." Sibley stepped forward, his voice rising. "Tell him to take his men and leave, or we'll drive them off by force." Wildcat's reply came swift and sharp, his voice resonating in low, deliberate Comanche. "You are a coward. I could take 30 old squaws from my people and overrun your camp." The tension was palpable, like a storm on the verge of breaking. With a sharp exhale, Sibley spun on his heel and stalked back to the fort, his movements rigid with barely contained anger. He left Diego the interpreter, and me alone with Wildcat and 600 warriors. Wildcat turned to me, filling his tomahawk pipe. "We smoke. Maybe we fight-ee this man. Me no fight you. If me fight-ee this man, you go away. Me no hurt-ee you." Before I could respond, Captain Robert E. Lee emerged from the fort. His deliberate, composed demeanor contrasted sharply with Sibley's departure. "Can you speak English?" Lee asked, his voice steady. Wildcat nodded. "Yes, me talk to you." "Do you want to fight?" Lee's question was pointed. Wildcat's voice carried weight as he replied, "Me no want fighty. Me want provisions. People hungry. No fighty you if me get provisions." Lee looked unconvinced and said again, "If you want to fight, say so. If not, say so." Wildcat looked bewildered and shook his head, emphasizing every word. "Me tell you, me get provisions, me no fighty. Me get a no provisions, me fighty." Lee shook his head and asked the same question I had asked the day before. "Can't you kill game?" Wildcat looked at me and smirked slightly before saying, "We go on meat hunt 14 days and get no cuts, no buffalo. My women and children are starving." Lee's expression softened, though his tone remained pragmatic. "Are these provisions for your men or for the women and children? If it is for your women and babies, we can spare some. But no fight." Wildcat's gaze remained unwavering. "Me need for all people hungry. But me no fighty you. Me provisions." Lee considered this, finally nodding. "Then we'll give you a little." Orders were quickly issued, and the provisions, 15 pounds of bread and 20 head of cattle, were prepared and delivered. As I rode buckshot slowly home, I paused to watch Wildcat's people drive the cattle back to their camp. Their movements were swift and efficient as they consumed bread, butchered cattle, and worked with precision shaped by necessity. The sight humbled me. I reflected on Sibley and Lee, two leaders with vastly different approaches. Where one demanded control, the other sought resolution. Watching Wildcat retreat, I knew which path had bridged the divide that day. Wildcat approached me one last time. "Captain," he said, his tone softening. "You good man. You help my people. Me no forget." His words lingered as I watched them vanish into the twilight, the dust from their departure hanging in the air, a silent testament to the fragile understanding forged that day.
As the Indian camp settled beneath the Texas stars, their hunger momentarily eased, the struggles of survival continued. Will stood near Fort Croghan, reflecting on the day's uneasy truce. Chief Wildcat's quiet strength lingered in his mind, not just as a leader advocating for his people, but as a man who carried the weight of diplomacy and conflict across every mile of the frontier. Respect had been earned, but questions lingered in the cool Texas night. Could fragile gestures of goodwill mend the rift between cultures in the throes of survival? For Will, these lessons would one day shape his choices, not just as a husband or settler, but as a guardian for those unable to defend themselves. Thank you for joining us on this journey through Banta's story. The Texas frontier was a land of paradox, beautiful and brutal, fragile yet indomitable. Its spirit lived in those who dared to walk the line between conflict and compassion. Until next time, ride with courage, and always remember, wisdom is the sharpest weapon.